surviving a nuclear attack. It sounds like something out of a disaster movie, doesn't it? But here's the reality. It's not just fiction. It's a real possibility, and there's a whole lot more to it than what the experts are telling you. They'll give you the basics. Tuck and cover, stockpile food, and pray you're not in the blast radius. But that's the easy part. What they don't tell you, what no one seems to explain, are the brutal truths of surviving the aftermath. The things that'll actually determine whether you live or die, long after the dust settles. First off, let's talk about something that never seems to get the attention it deserves. Radiation exposure. Everyone talks about the blast, but radiation's the real silent killer. You've heard about the fallout, but what's really going on when that cloud of toxic debris starts to settle? It's not just a matter of avoiding it. It's about how long you can avoid it. When the bomb hits, the immediate explosion releases an insane amount of radiation. Think thousands of times worse than what's safe. And it doesn't just disappear. It sticks to the ground, to everything around you, for days, weeks, even months. And the longer you're exposed, the worse it gets. Now, experts will tell you that getting into a basement, a building, or under some form of heavy cover can help you survive the radiation. But there's a catch. Most basements won't protect you long term. They're good for the first few hours, maybe a day. But the real radiation threat comes later, when everything starts to rain down. Most people think they'll be safe if they just find any kind of shelter. But they forget about one crucial factor: time. The longer you stay exposed to fallout without the right kind of protection, the more your cells are destroyed, and the closer you get to radiation sickness. So here's a truth you need to hear. You need to find shelter that blocks radiation. And that means more than just a concrete wall. You're looking for dense, solid material. A lead-lined room would be ideal, but not many people have access to lead, right? So what do? Look for dirt. Yes, dirt. Earth can actually absorb a surprising amount of radiation. If you're not in a basement, dig yourself into the ground. 2 feet of soil could keep most of the radiation out. But the more, the better. Sounds crazy, but this is the kind of knowledge they don't teach you in emergency prep classes. Now, if you're thinking you'll just hunker down and ride it out, think again. Let's talk about something even more sinister: the long-term effects. You might survive the initial blast. You might survive the fallout. But then you've got the real post-nuclear nightmare: food and water. These things are not optional. They're essential. But after a nuclear strike, everything is contaminated. Water sources will be radioactive. Your lakes, rivers, even underground water. And food, well, your crops will be poisoned. And animals will have been exposed to radiation too. Even if you manage to find some shelter, you'll need to think long-term about how to purify your water and grow food. People always assume they'll just live off their stockpiles of canned goods for months, maybe even years. But here's what the experts won't tell you. The cans themselves might be compromised. You might not even know it. But metal canisters in a post-nuclear world could be exposed to radiation too, especially if they've been stored improperly. You need to purify your water, and you need to grow food. Here's a secret they don't tell you. You need to learn how to decontaminate water using methods that won't just get rid of dirt, but actually neutralize radiation. Boiling water isn't going to cut it. The best method? Filtration using activated charcoal. combined with something as simple as distillation. But here's the catch. If you don't have the supplies for that, you're going to be struggling. And trust me, you don't want to be drinking radioactive water, even in small doses. Radiation poisoning comes slowly. So let's say you're doing all the right things, hiding in a shelter, purifying water, avoiding radiation. Now, let's talk about something they never bring up: psychological survival. Surviving a nuclear attack isn't just about physical survival. It's about the mental strain, the stress, and the breakdown of everything you know. The world you once knew is gone. There's no law, no society, no stability. You'll be dealing with an overwhelming sense of isolation, loneliness, and constant fear. But here's the kicker. The way you react in those first few hours could literally determine your survival. If you panic, if you make rash decisions, you're dead. If you freeze up, you're done. You have to control your fear. What nobody tells you is this: your body will react to stress in ways you can't predict. When that siren goes off, when the blast shakes everything around you, when you see the mushroom cloud in the distance, your mind is going to be flooded with adrenaline. Your instincts will take over, and that's what could either save you or kill you. You need to plan for mental survival as much as physical survival. And speaking of survival instincts, let's talk about the people around you. This is another ugly truth. When society collapses, the worst of humanity comes to the surface. You think people will help each other? Maybe some will. But trust me, others will kill you for food. Looting will become an everyday reality. When you're stuck in a shelter, or if you manage to make your way out, be ready for violence. The desperation in people's eyes, the fear-driven rage, it'll be contagious. And if you're not careful, if you don't prepare yourself mentally, you'll end up on the wrong side of that desperation. They don't tell you this in prepper documentaries. They don't explain how your neighbors might become your worst enemy. The first rule of survival after the blast? Trust no one. Form alliances, yes, but always be prepared for betrayal. And if you're one of the few lucky enough to survive the first wave of chaos, you'll be left with one final terrifying question. What comes next? We're talking about the slow collapse of everything. The infrastructure, the economy, the very foundations of what kept society running. The end of the world isn't a single event. It's a long, painful unraveling. And the experts won't tell you how to live through that. They won't tell you how to adapt, to innovate, to rebuild from nothing. But you need to start thinking about it, because when it hits, everything will change, and you'll have to decide if you're just surviving or if you're going to rise from the ashes. You're going to need more than a survival kit, more than a stockpile of food. You'll need to be a part of a community. You'll need to be adaptable. And most importantly, you'll need to embrace the uncomfortable truth that there's no perfect way to survive a nuclear attack. There's no how-to guide that will guarantee your survival. Now, I want you to think about one thing that no expert ever discusses, and that's the transition from survival mode to rebuilding. Surviving the initial nuclear blast, the fallout, the collapse, that's only the beginning. Most of the time, when we think about post-apocalyptic survival, we envision a world filled with constant struggle, hunger, and constant threats. But what you don't hear enough of is this. After the dust settles, you're going to have to deal with something even more complex: the survival of civilization itself. You'll need to start thinking about long-term strategies, not just for your own survival, but for rebuilding. How do you grow food? How do you cultivate a new society out of the ashes? How do you survive in a world where everything you once took for granted is gone? Because after a nuclear attack, you won't just need food, water, and shelter. You'll need to become a creator, a builder. You'll need knowledge you never thought you'd need. And that knowledge has to come from your ability to adapt. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most people don't realize that without a functional economy, society collapses. You need to understand how to make things that are useful. Forget the high-tech gadgets, the fancy survival knives. You need to get back to basics. Can you make a fire from scratch? And let's not forget the essential skill that gets overlooked time and time again. First aid and medical knowledge. If you think a broken leg or a small infection won't chill you in a post-nuclear world, you're dead wrong. Without hospitals, without modern medicine, what do you do when someone gets hurt? You need to learn how to treat wounds, how to manage infections, how to stop bleeding. These are not small issues. They're the kind of problems that, without the right knowledge, will kill you faster than radiation sickness ever could. And the odds of you having a full medical kit? Slim to none. You'll need to make do with what you can find, repurpose materials, and know how to treat even the most severe conditions with limited resources. But another thing nobody ever talks about is the social structures that will inevitably form after the collapse. You think you'll just sit in a shelter and wait for things to blow over? In reality, you're going to have to deal with the rise of warlords, power-hungry individuals, and groups who think the world is their kingdom. These groups will fight for control, and you'll need to make a decision. Do you fight back, or do you find a way to survive under their rule? It's all about power. In the aftermath of a nuclear strike, the balance of power shifts radically. The person with the most resources, food, water, shelter, becomes a king or queen. The person who can defend themselves, who knows how to manipulate the system and build alliances, becomes the survivor. And if you're not prepared to get your hands dirty, to fight for what's yours, then you're simply waiting for your turn to die. But it's not just about physical resources. Knowledge becomes power. In a post-apocalyptic world, forbidden knowledge will be the currency of survival. It's the kind of knowledge you don't get from mainstream experts. It's knowledge from the margins, from people who were prepared before the world went up in flames. Whether it's a DIY solar panel setup, how to build a functional wind turbine, or how to distill your own alcohol for trade, you're going to need information that others don't have. In a nuclear apocalypse, information is more precious than gold. And the more you know, the longer you'll last. Now, I want to address something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough: emotional resilience. Physical survival is one thing, but can you keep your mind intact when everything you know is gone? Can you hold it together when the people around you are losing their sanity? There's no easy way to say this. Life after a nuclear attack is going to be mentally brutal. The constant stress, the uncertainty, the constant battle for food and shelter. Your mental state will deteriorate just as quickly as your physical one. If you don't have emotional control, it's only a matter of time before you break down. You'll be dealing with grief, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, the mental scars of surviving a disaster that changed the world. And that's the dirty little secret. You don't just need physical prep. You need mental prep. You need to train your brain to handle chaos, to stay calm when things get hot. You need to develop mental techniques to reduce stress, to handle the pressure of survival. This is where having a sense of purpose, something beyond just survival, becomes vital. Without it, you'll lose the will to keep going. And in a world where hope is in short supply, that could be the most dangerous thing of all. By now, you should be getting the picture. Surviving a nuclear attack isn't just about escaping the blast or hiding from radiation. It's about rebuilding a life. And if you're not prepared for that, if you're only focused on the immediate aftermath, you're missing the most crucial part of survival. The first days are the easiest. The real test is what happens after the world is broken. That's when the true survivors will rise. And it's those who are prepared mentally, emotionally, and practically who will make it. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. You now know what the experts won't tell you. Survival isn't just about surviving the first hit. It's about surviving everything that comes after. And that's something you'll need to start thinking about now.